Hey guys, welcome to Tyson's Fitness Tips podcast. If you want to lose weight, increase your energy, improve your health and fitness, and look your best, then you have come to the right place. My name is Tyson Brown. I'm a personal trainer, and my job is to help you transform your body by sharing with you the most up-to-date information on health and fitness. I'm going to distill it all down for you into bite-sized actionable steps that you can take immediately to see results quickly. Now, every Tuesday and Thursday, you can expect a brand new episode, which will be a mixture of interviews with top experts from around the world in the fitness space, and as well as solo episodes from myself, sharing with you exactly what action steps you need to take to transform your health, your body, and your life. And that means you are going to get information from all different areas in regards to mindset, nutrition, fitness, things you wouldn't even think that are associated with your health and fitness, but are going to blow your mind. So let's get into the episode. Hey, before we get into the episode, I just want to let you know my brand new book, Ditch the Diet, has just come out and I'm giving away a couple of free copies. So if you want to go into the draw to win a free copy, all you have to do is share this podcast on your Instagram. All you have to do is click the share button, go to Instagram, put it in your stories, and then tag at Tyson the Trainer, and you'll go in the running. All winners will get the free copy of my book sent straight to your door, and I'm telling you, this book will be a game changer. So that's, once again, all you have to do is make sure that you take a screenshot, you share this, and you tag me on Instagram, and you will go into the running. All right, let's get into the episode. What's going on, guys? It is Tyson Brown, back with another episode of Tyson's Fitness Tips. So today I get to bring someone all the way over from the US in LA, nice and sunny over there, I think, at the moment for you, Jill. Her name is Jill, and yep. The reason I've decided to bring her on today is because she has a very, very cool background when it comes to getting into the health and fitness industry, but also a very important thing that we want to talk about today. It's in regards to nutrition and developing that healthy mindset. So, Jill, thank you so much for coming on today. I really appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure. Love talking about this stuff. Thanks for having me.
No worries. So for the people who don't know you, Jill, can you give us a bit of a background about, who you are, what you kind of do at the moment, and, just a bit about yourself?
Yeah, amazing. Thanks so much for having me. So I always love talking about nutrition. I think there's a lot of different iterations. And for me, I was one of those lucky people who just loved fitness growing up. So for me, I was an athlete all through high school and college, ended up getting certified as a PT and then teaching a bunch of fitness classes and going full-time into fitness. And I was one of those people who was able to kind of eat whatever I wanted as a result of that. So exercising a ton and also kind of having zero nutrition awareness or education. And it wasn't until I did my very first fitness competition in my early 20s that I had to start paying attention to macros and counting calories and things like that. And what I saw was I was able to change the shape of my body based on what I ate. And I got kind of addicted to that feeling. And so I ended up doing a series of competitions. I maybe did 12 shows over the course of about 5 years, where I was doing a lot of yo-yo dieting. I would lose and gain the same 20 pounds over and over again. And really, not only did it mess up my metabolism, but I really didn't know how to eat healthy anymore. I was basically just so controlled by food and so obsessed with food that the only way I could be around food was if I was in complete control and it was really just a full-time job, cooking food, eating food, making food, buying food. And so now what I do is something called Moderation 365, which is kind of my nutrition philosophy, which took years and years and years of trying to figure out how to eat normally again and how to kind of unlearn a lot of the extreme dieting practices. So Moderation 365 is very simple. It's how to teach people how to eat the same on Saturday that they do on Monday. No highs and lows in their dieting, no yo-yo dieting, no crazy stuff like that. So it's a whole series of education. I've been teaching that for about 6 years now. And it's a lot of it is around mindfulness and things like that. But my history is basically in a lot of extreme dieting, very kind of getting up on stage, doing figure competitions, fitness competitions, and kind of coming out of that and now helping other people transition out of that lifestyle.
Wow, it sounds like over the years you've experienced a lot when it comes to doing that strict side of things because it's hard. Like, I guess, you saw the results after applying what's been shown to work, but then turning that into more of an obsession and I guess, just becoming too focused on that one side of things and not being able to have, I guess you'd say, like a normal lifestyle.
For sure. I think you get addicted to me, it's intoxicating. Same thing with fitness, by the way. I can lift weights and my body changes. Same thing with nutrition, right? You eat certain foods or you cut your calories or, you cut out certain food groups and your body changes. And so I got addicted to seeing myself in that extremely lean place, like 10% body fat, 12% body fat. And that's super extreme, but this is probably applicable to even just someone who's maybe lost a whole bunch of weight doing some sort of diet and then maybe gained that weight back. There's a lot of things that we don't normally talk about associated with weight regain, things like shame and embarrassment and, feeling guilty and feeling weak and feeling like you're kind of just lazy or something like that. And really it's just a physiological issue, right? And it becomes a mindset issue. And so, yeah, it's unlearning a lot of the typical diet rules. And I got to the point where I got to the grocery store and I didn't even know what to buy. Like I just couldn't even, and meanwhile I had grocery shopped myself my entire life. But once I'm 30 years old and I'm looking around, like, I don't know how to eat normally. It's a really scary place to be, but it's a very controlling place to be too. So on some level it feels good.
Yeah, I think, and you saying that kind of going to the shops, not really knowing what to buy. And I feel like that's the same type of mentality people have, when they come, quote unquote, off their diet, whether they've been following keto or low carb or whatever it is. Like when you say, let's go back to normal, it's like, well, what's normal at the moment? And this is where we get that distortion of like, okay, I'm going to try, like you can't go back to the way you were eating because if you do that, you're going to re-put on the weight, but you're not sure what to do. And that's why, like you said, the people will eventually put back on the weight simply because they don't know how to make the good choices from Monday. Like, every day of the week, there's no like on and off. It's finding something that's going to work the best for you.
Totally. And you just get so used to either being 100% on a super strict diet or you're completely off. You just go, oh, well, I'm not dieting right now, so I'm going to eat whatever I want. And of course, you have the physiological issue and the rebound of your cravings are through the roof, your hunger is through the roof, your energy is all over the place. That stuff's not benign. So you're trying to white knuckle it, and yet you can't. So you're only in two modes. It's all or nothing or black and white. And so the idea of eating moderately or eating a more balanced way feels like failure because you're like, where does that fit in with this all or nothing approach, right? I'm either on a strict diet or it's not good enough. And so coming back to moderation kind of was really scary. It felt like giving up control because I didn't know what that looked like. I didn't know how to have a bite of a cookie and then put it away. I didn't know how to have one single glass of wine at night. I didn't know how to have a handful of potato chips and then leave the rest of the bag. Like I had to reteach myself all of that stuff. And so it is hard because I think you feel really alone because you feel a lot of shame too. So you don't want to talk about it. So that's why Moderation 365 and that course that I have and what I teach women is like a great place to just feel normal and normalize a lot of the stuff that's happening behind closed doors and go, cool, how do we need to get more mindful? What does that process look like? And then honestly, how long does it take? It took me 3 full years to make that shift back into moderation to where I didn't blow up and gain the 50 pounds that I thought I was going to.
It's funny you say, like, you being so honest about how long it took you because a lot of people, we see these diets and how they can change the body so quick, but building in those long-term habits to, basically undo all the bad things you've done, it's going to take a lot more time and effort and you have to be conscious of it. And so, like you said, it took you 3 years. It's taken me, I think it took me about 2.5 years to kind of find that balance type of thing. And you've just got to put in the work to undo all that bad habit, all you've been taught over time, and it's not going to come like that, like a 6 weeks transformation you see on Instagram and things like that.
It's so hard because so much of what we see in diet culture is marketing. You know that you own a business. So a lot of it does come down to making things seem urgent, making things seem scarce. And when you want to make that full change into a healthy, balanced, women say to me all the time, I just want to be able to eat healthy forever, right? I just want to be able to eat healthy forever. So you and I are saying it might take a year, 2 years, 3 years to get to that final solution. But in my mind, what's 2 years in the grand scheme of things when considering you've spent 10, 15, 20 years yo-yo dieting, right? That's a waste of time. It's a waste of money. So what's 1 single year or 2 years of your life to really do the hard work of figuring out your own metabolism, understanding what foods work for you, which ones don't, understanding your personal preferences, taking into consideration your psychological sensitivities, your metabolism, your schedule, all these things that we don't take into consideration when we're just following a diet. We go, oh, someone told me I need to eat every 3 hours. So we start eating every 3 hours. We never ask ourselves, when it's time to eat, are we actually hungry? Are we craving? Are we full? How full are we? Like, those mindfulness questions don't get asked. We're just trying to stick ourselves into this kind of, one-stop shop. And oftentimes it just doesn't work. I mean, if you see someone being successful on keto, amazing, but chances are they're more predisposed to do well on a high-fat diet. It just works better with their metabolism, their personal preferences. So it doesn't mean that everyone should be doing that. It just means it's the people that it's worked for less with less effort. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, that does make sense. And it's funny you said it, like, everyone is going to be different. We've got to find out what's going to work best for us. And, it's going to be a process. It's going to be a journey. And so even if it takes you more years, like if you look at 2 years and the average person's living to about 80, that's only 3 to 4% of your life. And it's a very small chunk of time. But in that time, you make the investment to understand your body, to understand what works well for you and what doesn't. You've got the rest of your life to keep those habit-based changes that are going to be fueling your body and making you feel good and being able to achieve how you want to look.
Right. And it's a marketing problem. Honestly, moderation and balance, they have a marketing problem. They're not sexy enough. People don't feel the urgency of that, right? It doesn't feel urgent. It doesn't feel exciting. It doesn't feel novel. And so for me to say to someone, yeah, I'm going to teach you how to eat healthy forever, but it's going to take 2 years, they get bored, right? It doesn't feel good enough. It doesn't feel hardcore enough. So the natural tendency of the human brain is to seek out novelty. So we're going to go, oh, that's fine, Jill. Yeah, sounds good. But then if someone, my neighbor starts doing keto and starts dropping pounds left and right, I'm definitely going to go and try and look at what they're doing and be like, maybe I should do this, right? That's just the normal way that humans work. So it's a really hard thing to market, to teach someone to understand your body. But I've found that the ones that it works the best for are the ones who are just so fed up with however many diets they have done with very little success, if any, and they're feeling at their wit's end. That's where I was. I was at that point where I just threw my hands up and I was like, I literally don't care if I gain 50 pounds because I have to figure this out. And this is miserable how I'm over here. So you have to reach a point of misery to be like, you know what, I'm finally ready to figure this out for good.
It's kind of like hitting rock bottom and knowing, well, there's only up from here, and so that's when you start taking the action steps.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of just like, you know what, I've tried everything. I've actually tried everything. Why not try this thing over here that I'm really scared to try because it's going to take a long time and it's not going to be sexy and it's going to be kind of boring and I'm going to have to do a lot of work and ask myself some questions and learn mindfulness and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of it, everyone who's gone through this process says to me, I'll never do another diet again. Like, why would I? See my friends doing different diets, trying different things. And every time I see them, they're trying something new and it's exhausting to even watch. And also, one of the really interesting things that happens when you start eating moderately and kind of automating your eating is that you have a lot more brain power to do other things. So if you want to build your business, if you want to spend more time with your family, if you don't want to spend all day cooking and prepping food and eating food out of Tupperwares, and you want to kind of be able to live your life without being so stressed about food, you're able to have time and energy to spend on things that are not associated with your physique. Because that's exhausting. That's where I was at. And I was like, this is a full-time job. I'm at the gym 3 times a day. I'm cooking food, eating food, making food, buying food, washing dishes 6 times a day. And I wasn't able to actually do anything else in my life. And it was at that point when I started Jill Fit that I just was like, you know what, I have to figure out my eating because I need to work on this business if I'm really serious about it. And so I work with a lot of moms and they're like, I want to spend more time with my kids. I want to set a good example for my kids. So I have to figure this out. So whatever that impetus is for you, asking yourself, am I willing to make that courageous choice into learning how to do something more sustainable? And, as my friends are doing the extreme stuff, am I willing to just put the blinders on and stay the course?
That's so true. And it's funny to because like even asking that question, like, am I willing to do it? Even if you tell yourself the truth and say, no, I'm not, at least you know the answer. There's no like going back and forth as to whether you're willing to put in the time or not. It's like, okay, I said I'm either going to do it or I'm not going to do it. There's no wondering, are you actually willing to put in the effort and put in the work that it's going to take?
Yep, 100%. And I think that's good too, because I've had plenty of people say to me, Jill, I've been reading your stuff for years and it didn't resonate with me truly and just like until last month. So it's fine to just go, what? I know that I'm not ready for that. I still want to try some more diets. I still am curious about keto, still curious about fasting. I'm still curious. And I'm not saying these things are wrong, by the way. It's just that most of us try to fit ourselves into these cookie cutter plans. And then when they don't work, we feel bad, right? And then all of a sudden we're kind of accumulating all of these little discouraging and defeatist moments where we think nothing is ever going to work. And so that's when we have to, and it's hard because we want to give the process over to an expert or a coach. We want to be like, you know what, Tyson, like, just tell me what to eat. Just tell me to eat, I'll eat it. And you and I both know that doesn't work long term. So there really is an ownership that comes with this process that takes courage to take it on.
Absolutely. And so Jill, like, you've talked a lot about like moderation. So what is moderation to you? What exactly is that?
Such a great question. Moderation gets a super bad rap only because there's a lot of criticisms around it because it's not really quantifiable. That's one of the things that's really hard for people is, if we're doing keto or we're counting macros or we're counting points or we're counting calories, everything is quantifiable. I just, I count how many protein grams or whatever it is. Moderation, you can't really count it. It's not quantifiable. And so really, to me, synonymous with the word moderation or the concept of moderation is the word satisfaction. So it's a level of feeling satisfied, but not stuffed. That's always my marker. So for me, what that looks like is this. So if you're someone who has a history of yo-yo dieting, maybe you are an all or nothing person, you're like, I just can't have, ice cream in my house because I eat the whole thing, or I can't just stop at a handful of chips. I have to finish the entire bag. If that's you, or you're on a super strict diet, if that's you, one way to teach yourself moderation is to go, okay, what would normally be my maybe strict meal? So I'll give you an example. Say you're trying to like lose weight and someone told you should have egg whites and, asparagus or something for breakfast. And so you make egg whites and you make some asparagus, steamed vegetables. And I don't know about you, but like to me, that leaves something to be desired. That's like, okay, it's healthy, but it's also so bland. And by lunchtime, I'm going to be jonesing for like a sub and like some chips or something, right? So, because remember, meals don't happen in isolation, which means what do you decide to eat for breakfast impacts your choice at lunch. If you eat something that's not going to satisfy you and that's going to leave you kind of hungry and leave you not satisfied, you're going to be much more likely to crave something maybe worse, maybe more junk food at lunchtime and at dinner time, right? So I have this kind of, I call it a preemptive cheat or kind of preventative model where you add something to that breakfast that gives you just a tiny bit of satisfaction. So can it be like one yolk, or can it be a little bit of butter on your vegetables, or maybe a sprinkle of cheese on your omelet? Like, what is that like small, almost condiment that's going to give you a little bit more satisfaction? Sure, it's more calories for sure, but the idea is that you're kind of taking the edge off a little bit. So when you get to lunch, you're much more likely to make a healthier choice because you don't feel deprived. So my entire philosophy is based on not feeling deprived. So when I say satisfied, a lot of people are like, well, great, Jill, I could have a dozen donuts and I'll feel satisfied off that. But we know the difference, right? That even feeling stuffed into your clothes, that doesn't feel satisfying. That feels stressful. And so satisfaction is, I feel good. I don't need any more. I could eat more, but I feel good. And so on a scale from 1 to 10, how satisfied is this meal? I have something called satisfaction factor. What is the satisfaction factor of this meal? Am I good? Do I need to have more? What's that like little additional either condiment or taste or richness that I need in this meal that's going to make me feel more satisfied? And then you get to the next meal, same thing. Cool, I'm going to have a salad for lunch. What can I maybe add to that salad to make it a little bit more satisfying? Maybe add an avocado or maybe a sprinkle of cheese, right? These are things that when we're on a strict diet, we think, oh, we can't have cheese. But my whole thing is if you have a sprinkle of cheese now, you're not going to eat a pan of brownies later. And so again, it's that preventative approach. You get to dinner and you feel good. Okay, dinner's protein and veggies. Amazing. Maybe we're going to have a little bit of sweet potato. Cool. Can I throw like a little bit of butter on that, or cinnamon, or like some like something to make that a little bit more satisfying so that I don't jones all night long and eat everything in the house after dinner. And so it's this preventative model. So satisfaction is really the key. So moderation to me is a feeling. It's like, do I feel satisfied in this moment? Cool. I'm not stuffed. And I also don't feel deprived. Cool. Moving on.
I really like that approach, actually. I've never heard it put that way before, which is really cool, because just even you saying that, like, there are certain things that I do at the moment. I'm trying to lose some weight for a photo shoot, and like certain things I do is like, for dessert, it's like I'm not gonna have a chocolate bar, but I've got a Lindt 90% dark chocolate. Like just having that is like, oh, I'm satisfied now, and it doesn't lead me looking in the cupboard, looking in the fridge for something to eat later on. Like I feel like I've hit that satisfaction, and I don't need to go for anything else.
Yeah, I think a lot of people tend to think like, well, I don't really need chocolate, right? Like I'm good without it. So they'll skip it. The problem is they convince themselves that skipping is better when in the long term, it's actually not. It's actually better to have a couple of squares or a couple of bites now than it is to continue to deprive yourself to the point where you eat an entire pan of brownies. I think that's what people miss because they go, well, I don't really need it. Like I'm good, right? You wake up after a bingey weekend on Monday morning. What do you say to yourself? I'm going to be so clean this week. I'm going to be so tight on my diet this week. And because we feel so disgusting, maybe from overeating on the weekend, we do feel like we really want to eat super clean, right? That's a genuine feeling. The problem is it doesn't last. I think for me, the tipping point was doing what I call the binge then deprive cycle. So it was like I deprive all week long and then binge on the weekend, and then deprive all week long and then binge on the weekend. And every time I woke up on Monday morning, I was like, I'm going to be stronger this week. I'm going to be better this week. The problem was it wasn't working. So I had a show of evidence that it really wasn't working as much as I wanted it to. And I wanted to be clean. I wanted to do well. My diet, I just couldn't. And so I had to figure out a different solution. And so I started giving myself these preemptive cheats, like literally having a couple of squares of chocolate on a Monday. That felt very off limits to me. Having a glass of wine on Tuesday, a single glass of wine felt very off limits to me. It felt like, oh my God, I'm off my diet. I might as well drink the entire bottle. And so it was the practice of taking a bite of something, that was a little bit maybe off limits. It was if someone had a cookie, sure, I'll have a bite. If someone had a glass of wine, sure, I'll have a sip. If someone had, fries on their plate, sure, I'll have one or two. And that practice, I call this intermittent sampling, by the way, just sampling foods that you previously maybe wouldn't have allowed yourself, to come back to the middle, to realize and teach yourself that middle ground, navigating the middle, never having to be on or off. And it's hard. It took a long time to practice because you're not always going to get it right either. Sometimes you will overindulge and you need to leave room for that. It always surprises me that we just assume that dieting, we should just be able to do it. But to me, dieting or eating healthy is a skill. It's just like learning a new instrument or learning a new language. You expect to mess up, right? You're trying to learn new language. Of course you're going to mess up. But when it comes to dieting or eating, we think we should just be perfect on it. And that's just not the case. So you need to leave that wiggle room. And then remember that just like you didn't, you're not going to lose 50 pounds overnight. You're also not going to gain 50 pounds overnight. There's a lot of wiggle room in there and time and space for practice. So relaxing into the process is really key too.
That's very cool.
Thanks. Yep, I got you.
I just realized I hit the mute on myself as I was talking. So what I was saying, is when it comes to making those changes, like, adding in a little bit of satisfaction here and there, how do you find that, like, I know you said it's a lot of practice of going back and forth, but like if I was to say, okay, I'm going to start adding little bits, like, is it a thumb-sized serving of something, or is it like half of what I was usually have? How do you kind of find that balance?
Yeah, so this is such a great question. One of the things that I use really to get started is I really don't quantify it. Again, it's based on things like bites and sips. So my intermittent sampling practice is I tell my clients, and this is actually a homework assignment we have in one of my courses, is to go out and buy the food item that you're scared of having. So for a lot of people, it's like, well, Jill, because, you've heard of the advice, like, don't have it in your house and you won't eat it, right? Out of sight, out of mind, which, I like that as kind of a 1.0 level strategy. I like that as like, you're beginning, okay, cool, get it out of sight, out of mind. But eventually, like, this is life. Eventually, like, we're going to be around ice cream again. We're going to be around chips again. We're going to be around brownies again. And so at some point, I want to be able to be around any food anytime and not feel scared of it. Because if I say I just can't be around, I don't trust myself around French fries, I'm putting it up on this pedestal like it's this big scary food that like has control over me, versus being able to be around someone else having fries on their plate and being able to take one single fry. Like, to me, that's the most evolved approach. That's the most like, most highest level of control, really. And so the practice is having a food item that you're scared of or you don't trust yourself around and buying it, having it at your house, and then taking a single serving per day throughout the week. So for example, if it's, a pint of ice cream, cool, a pint is 4 servings. So have a serving each night. So instead of deprive, I can't have it, build it into your day. And when I say build it in, I don't mean like cut calories over here so you can have calories at night. It's literally like expose yourself. This is exposure therapy. There's a shitload of, sorry, can I cuss on this? Sorry, I just got going.
Go for it. Yeah, go for it.
I'm saying there's just a ton of research on exposure therapy that helps people lower their anxiety around things. And so it's the same thing with food. So if you're scared of a specific food or you don't trust yourself around that, you need to start exposing yourself to that. So I talk to a lot of parents who say that they're, maybe when they first had kids, they would have bites of their kids' food and junk food and stuff like that. But now their kids are in high school and they have, cabinets full of chips and, like all these different kind of junk foods, and they don't even touch them. Like it doesn't even cross their mind to have them because they're always there. And so it's the practice of having a serving and then moving on and assessing, okay, how do I feel after that? I had a serving of ice cream. Do I want more? Cool. If I do, then that's fine. Let's just be mindful about it. So intermittent sampling really is a practice in mindfulness, going back and going, okay, how does it make me feel? Am I still jonesing? Cool. Can I wait 20 minutes? Let me see how I feel in 20 minutes. If I'm still craving in 20 minutes, then I'm going to have another serving. No judgment, but it's about the mindfulness practice. And so it's a little bit nuanced. Honestly, Moderation 365 is a very kind of evolved nutrition philosophy, but it is for people who have a history of yo-yo dieting. So if someone's a beginner, it's probably not the best strategy because for them, they can just start with healthier foods and it doesn't have to be so obsessive, but I help people rehab back from excessive dieting.
Actually, I'm going to challenge myself to actually do that, like you just said, because for me, I talk a lot about cutting away your trigger foods because I work a lot with beginners. But for myself, like there are certain foods where I just don't feel, let's say, like, safe about having them in the house because I'm scared that I'll have that binge. But having that, like the approach that you just laid out, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to challenge myself, and I probably will mess up. I'm going to be honest, like it will happen, but I'm just going to give it a go and see if I have that, if I get the satisfaction from it and I can stop and just become more comfortable, because you said one really important thing there is like being able to have the power to have one chip and stop, or to have a handful of chips or whatever it's going to be and just be like, okay, that's fine. And when you do that, like that is the biggest sense of accomplishment you will feel, and you then know that you have more control over what you put in your mouth and your body.
100%. I mean, one of the things that we love about dieting is it makes us feel really in control. We like dieting because it feels organized, right? We got the food list, we got the grocery, we got the recipes, we got the Tupperwares. Like it feels really exciting. I mean, they've actually shown in research that people are more excited about starting a diet than they are about actually doing it. So come January 1st or whenever you're starting your diet, you go to the grocery store and you get all this stuff and it looks so beautiful and you cook it all. And like, we like that. It feels super organized to see our Tupperwares lined up in our fridge, and that's fine. But at the same time, it is, if we can only eat in our kitchen with our food, to me, that's not living. So the ultimate in control is to be able to go to any restaurant, to go to any function, to go to any event, to go to someone else's house, to expose yourself to any food, anytime, and be able to take a bite of it and move on, and it not have the kind of illicit power that it used to have over you. And so again, that comes from exposure therapy. So for you, it might not be a full serving. Like I don't really do full servings of stuff if I'm just like tasting stuff, but I'll have, honestly, I have a protein bar, I have protein bars, I have chocolate bars, I have candy all over my house, and I'll walk by and take like one single bite of something. And I do that all the time. So I'll have a bag of candy that lasts me like 2 weeks. And it's just like a bite of here, bite there. And it keeps me feeling satisfied. I never feel deprived. So really, this is a preventative approach.
Man, that's awesome. I really like that. And so it's called, did you say it's called Mindset 365?
Moderation 365.
Sorry,
it's on Instagram. Yeah, if you guys are interested. So it's a whole education that goes with it. There's actually a free course if you just follow the Moderation 365 handle on Instagram. We have a free course, and also like honestly, all the posts are just sharing the kind of tools that we're sharing right here.
Awesome. So we've talked about, moving away, like moving into that moderation side of things, having bites and nibbles, and just having enough satisfaction to kind of keep you on the right track with better choices in food. One thing you also mentioned is like mindfulness when you were eating. So like What are two things people can practice while they're, maybe it could be after a meal, like is it after asking yourself, are you actually satisfied? What else could people do when it comes to food?
Sure. Yeah, I love talking about mindfulness. Mindfulness to me is a word that gets thrown around so much. So sometimes it feels like our eyes start to like gloss over when people say mindfulness. You're like, yeah, I know I need to do that. But to me, mindfulness really is like the Mac Daddy nutrition tool. It's so applicable because and mindfulness really is just a low level of thinking about stuff all the time. It's like automated thinking. It's like I'm constantly in awareness of how hungry I am, how if I'm craving something, how full I'm feeling. I'm just like constantly aware of that. So there's a couple of practices people can do. Number one is just starting to ask yourself those questions. This is just noticing and naming. So for example, what I started doing when I wanted to learn about mindfulness, because previously I had no level of mindfulness. I was either starving or stuffed. Like those are the only two things that I could feel. I was either starving and then I ate everything in sight till I was like stuffed and I had to open up my pants, right? So like those are the two things that when we don't have mindfulness, we're so at the mercy of those kind of things versus a mindful approach is going, yeah, I could eat, but like, you know what? I could probably wait another 30 minutes to eat. Like that's a mindfulness. That's awareness statement. You know, I'm kind of starting to get hungry. I could probably eat within the next hour. That's a mindfulness statement versus all of a sudden I look up from my work and I'm like famished and I'm just grabbing the closest thing. That's like a mindlessness approach, right? So first thing I did was in order to get back into understanding and feeling my biofeedback, my body sensation, hunger, cravings, energy, mood, satiety, satisfaction. In order to even be able to pick up on those things, I set my timer on my phone for every 3 hours. And it wasn't every 3 hours to eat. It was every 3 hours to prompt myself to ask those questions. So I would literally it would go off and I'd go, how hungry am I right now on a scale from 1 to 10? That's it. That's all I would ask myself. Cool, 7. Awesome. Maybe I should start to think about a healthy solution within the next hour. It was just putting me on notice that like, cool, I'm getting ready to almost be hungry. I should think about what I'm going to be doing instead of getting to the point of famished and then I don't have the control. So I would just set that for like maybe 4 or 5 times throughout the day just to ask myself the question. And that honestly, I only had to do that for like a week or two. And then all of a sudden I was starting to get into the rhythm. So it doesn't take that long to get into it. So that's one way. Another way is Post-it notes. If you have Post-it notes, you can leave them around your house, like put them on your, mirror, on your bathroom. You can put them on your fridge. You can put them on your cupboard, your computer that just said things like, how hungry are you? Are you craving something? How full do you feel right now? And I usually a 1 to 10 scale. And that's all it is. It's just literally answering that question. No judgment. I don't care if you're a 10 or a 1, doesn't matter. It's just a practice of the awareness practice. That's one thing. Those are a couple of things. The other one is when you're actually eating a meal is learning to eat to 80% fullness. And this is always really hard. I'm sure you guys have heard this like stop when you're 80% full. It's hard for most of us because again, we don't stop until we're stuffed, right? That's when we know, that's when we start to notice, I should stop eating because I'm so full right now. So 80% is a mindfulness practice that goes, could I eat more right now? And if you could, you're probably at 80%. So it's so hard to quantify. Obviously, we don't know objectively what 80% is, but this is the cue for me, if I could still eat more, then I stop. That's the cue for me. So it's going to be hard because you technically could eat more. You're not at the like pants unbuckling point yet. But if you could eat more, that's the time to go, you know what? I could eat more, but I feel pretty good. I feel pretty satisfied right now. And then that's maybe when you put the rest in a to-go bag or you put the rest in a Tupperware.
Man, I'm scribbling notes at the moment, Jill, because like, I don't know about everyone else listening, but I'm taking some selfish things away from here to start applying immediately, which is really, really cool. Thank you so much.
Oh, good. I'm so glad. Yeah, it's so fun. I love talking about this stuff.
And so for people wanting to find out more about you, what you're doing at the moment, can you give us a bit of an idea about, like, where are you? Like, where can we find you on Instagram? Where are you at the moment?
Yeah. So best to follow at Jill Fit. That's where kind of everything goes down. And then if you're just looking to connect or whatever, and then if you are interested in more of the nutrition concepts, make sure you follow at Moderation 365 on Instagram. It's more of an educational platform. There's a free course there if people are interested in more of these kind of techniques and want to get started with the concept. It is an education. So yes, it's a concept, but even tonight we went through some of the tools and techniques for how to do this stuff. Because I think a lot of these words like intuitive eating and flexible dieting and mindfulness, like they're getting tossed around, even moderation, getting tossed around, but they feel so intangible for a lot of us. It's like, yeah, moderation, but no one has really quantified that. So Moderation 365 attempts to give people the actual tools in order to really practice moderation, not just say eat moderately. Like that just leaves so much to be desired, but instead fills in the gaps for people. So my business is a third fitness and nutrition, like we talked about, and then it's actually 2/3 business coaching. So I teach people how to come up with their own concepts. So for example, if you're a personal trainer or a health coach, and you're like, gee, that sounds really neat, I could never come up with something like that. I help people come up with their own concepts to help their clients. So that's pretty much what's going on right now. I have a year-long mentorship called Best of You that starts in January, and I'm launching that course in the next month or so. So if you guys are following on Jill Fit, you'll get all the details.
Awesome. Guys, make sure that you follow her on Jill Fit, and you also follow 360 Moderation, because there are so many things there that it's like the way you change your mindset and the way you start programming yourself is to be, the more you're in tune with it, the more you're aware, the more it's coming up on your Instagram and social media, the more it's going to start to cascade and make a bigger effect. So make sure you're following Jill on all platforms. Jill, thank you so much for coming on again. I really appreciate it. And I would love to have you on for round 2 sometime.
Amazing. Yeah. Thanks so much for having me. Obviously, I can talk about that. So I'm pretty long-winded, but I appreciate you giving me the platform, and hopefully this is helpful for the listeners.
No worries. Guys, replay this again. Take away those tips. Start applying it. And until next time, I'll speak to you then. Hey guys, thanks so much for listening to the episode. I really appreciate it. Now before you go, can you please do me one favor and go to the iTunes review and leave me a 5-star rating? That way it's going to help me reach more people with their health and fitness. And if you do that, whoever leaves a 5-star rating, I'll give you a free copy of my digital book. So all you have to do is just go get a 5-star, screenshot it, send it to me via Instagram at Tyson the Trainer, and you'll get a free copy of my digital book. Thank you so much, and I'll speak to you next time.